Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the study session on the Van Born Roadway Gateway Overlay District corridor. And it's going to be presented by Wade Trim and our city engineer.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Council Chair. Again, this is the Van Born Overlay District. We have a PowerPoint presentation that we have shared with the council before. And just as a background, this effort has been in the works for the last, 5 years, 2017, 18, 19, 20. So this is not new. The detail of the overlay, the ordinance overlay between us and Taylor have been in the work for many years. And then every item, every section, every detail, like number of parking, the level of finishes, have been discussed at great lengths between the planning commissions of both cities. And where we stand today, we have this final product, which I believe you all have copies of in front of you, in addition to the PowerPoint. The final product consists of the agreement for the overlay, the standards, the requirements, if you will, the construction requirements that is agreed upon between the two cities. So this effort was blessed and adopted by Taylor, blessed and recommended for approval by the City of Dearborn Heights Planning Commission. So, and I lost count if we are on the first read, second read, third read. I don't know. We're on
The first
First
read.
read, we'll put the first read list.
5 times on the first read. Okay, sir. The objective.
That's what we had
I'm
last
okay.
week.
I'm okay. I'm fine. You know, it's been presented. So again, let me go over the what are the objectives of this effort. If you look on page 2 in your package, you will show that this is to enhance the appearance of the cities and by introducing site and building design requirements on both sides of the gateway. The gateway, again, is the Van Born for us between Inkster and Southfield. So the one side, the north side of Van Born in the city of Dearborn Heights, that's the requirement. Now, this also, number 2, it's to support economic development within the Gateway Overlay District by improving the overall sense of place. And 3, to create positive impression of the cities and to provide attractive introduction to the communities. 4, to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of both the cities through the coordinated land use regulations. Again, it's important to understand that this is a coordinated effort between two cities. So if you are an outside person walking through the corridor, ideally what you should see on both sides when it's all developed is a uniform appearance, uniform standards, so there's not a cinder block building on one side and high-level finished building on one side. Number 6 is to provide the mechanism for retrofitting and provision for developing the sites in conformance with these regulations. And 7, to improve the sustainability through increased landscaping that break up the large areas of previous surfaces. 8, to maximize the retention and existing of trees, shrubs, and natural environment, and to ensure, finally, the coordinated effort between the cities of Taylor and Dearborn Heights through adoption of the same regulations and procedures within the Gateway District. So this only speaks to that Gateway District. So when we get a proposal for a new development or for an improvement made to the facilities, these requirements only apply if that proposal falls within this corridor. So this is not.
Can you tell us the corners of the corridor? Is it from Van Born?
Van Born, no, the Van Born from Inkster to Southfield. The north side is Dearborn Heights, and that is the front on Van Born.
As I understood, it was going to be done in 2 phases. Is that correct?
So it's not going to be, I think we went over it last time, it is not going to be an overnight, so we're not going to demo everything and start fresh. What this will do is if you adopt it today, any new proposal, and then if you look on draft page number 8, it will show you the applicability. When does this requirement kick in? 1, new construction, any new structure that's being developed or proposed to be developed in the area shall comply with the requirements outlined in the TDBH, Taylor Dearborn Heights code. Two, remodeling or renovation of any existing facility. So if you're doing any remodeling to an existing facility, you will fall under the requirement of this overlay. And the only time you don't have to follow this if it is maintenance. So if you're maintaining an existing structure, normal maintenance, you don't have to you don't have to follow this. But the idea is you're phasing in a new standard. This is not to replace our zoning book. So this zoning book, and I went through both of them, this doesn't go away. What this will do is all the requirements still apply, and this, for any construction within that corridor, on that C3 area in Dearborn Heights, this additional requirements will apply. So that's why it's called an overlay. It's an addition, not in lieu of, it's an addition to. So that doesn't, yes, sir.
No, what I was referencing the two phases, in the first initial study session I went to, I think about 6 years ago or something like that, a part of the plan, just like you have in the picture there, was to do new landscape and new asphalt and new, I'm like not on the word for it, the yellow lines, like the yellow driving lanes and striping, what have you. As I remember, they said they were gonna do it from Inkster to Telegraph first, then from Telegraph to Southfield second. And I think, as I recall, the cost eventually will be at $1.5 million per mile.
Right, right. So the first step in adopting a zoning is to try, first you have a standard for new construction. Then we are going to take that into our capital program. So we start looking at the public spaces, the sidewalk, there is also a provision here about the Ecorse Creek, the areas north of the C3 and Ecorse Creek. So, but I can't put that in my capital improvement until it's officially adopted. But there are, so the first step, and I know Taylor already beat us to it. We were ahead of them. They adopted it in May. So now they have, so if you go to Taylor and you wanted to build on the south side of Van Born, these requirements apply. I can't apply those to Dearborn Heights because they're not officially on the books yet.
Council Chair?
Yes, Councilman.
What about the facade change? Is that mentioned in here?
Yes, sir.
It
Yeah,
is?
yeah.
So,
So start looking at, if you look past page 8, draft, and I call it draft, so it will speak to all the enhancements that are required under this overlay. So it starts by pedestrian connectivity, amenities, outdoor dining, buffering, building material, facades, and street-facing elevation. That will be draft 8, June 20th. There's no page number, I'm sorry. But yes.
is there a percentage of the facade change that they can go under and not have to follow these guidelines?
I'm going to read it. To enhance the aesthetic appearance of the district.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
See, I'm sorry, I don't see pages.
What is it, page? There's the high numbers
No,
there.
it doesn't. It's section, here. It didn't put-
What is it, 200, I got 276, 270s?
Oh, no, you're using
You're using this one
it
now?
came from the web. It doesn't have it.
Okay, so what
Under
packet are you in?
Architectural, it's the same.
Architectural?
We need to put page numbers on
282?
those.
Page 282. Okay, yeah, okay. 282. Thank you.
Yeah, so on the facade and street-facing elevations, they're saying that to compromise the minimum of 75% of the facade facing the street elevation with decorative accent material, wood, vinyl. So it is, according to this, 75%. I believe you had mentioned that during the coordination meeting with Taylor.
Yeah.
You wanted it. And then on the rear side is 50%.
Okay, see.
So there are a lot of details that cover things like the fascia, the material, the height of the requirements, the setback, the face facing the structure must be facing Van Born, not, like we currently have, some facing sides, some. So there are, yeah. So this is to, now again, you will phase those improvements in. You phase them in as new development or renovation take place. They will have to comply with that. Now, one important thing is the setback, and I had many calls about this, setback requirements between structure also applicable to the back, because if you remember, if you look at the zoning map, the back is residential. So we don't want businesses being so close to residential, so there are requirements for the setback, the rear setback, side setbacks. So,
But this is for like new construction, correct? Like if they,
or renovation, as I said earlier, so if you're renovation, like major renovation taking place, aside from maintenance, you'll have to comply with
Or when
these.
you apply for permits,
so basically we're gonna be asking them to like demo part of the building if,
No.
it's not gonna be so people have asked this question before, I just wanna answer it if you don't mind. So, they won't come, like, let's say you have an open restaurant there. They won't come out, as long as you're to code, they won't come out and say, well, now the new look is blue and the new look is gray or whatever it is. They won't do that to you, but when you go apply for new permits, or you're tearing it down, building a new one, or remodeling, or a new owner comes in, he's gonna get a certificate of occupancy, then at that point, you're gonna have to follow the new
no,
guidelines.
no, I understand exactly. So if a new restaurant go in, you're gonna ask them to demo as part of the building?
Not demo,
To- just to-
to enhance the appearance.
I mean,
not
for
demo.
that setback, you said from the setback in the back.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, so the process of implementing this, there's two steps, and we were just talking about that. You have to go to administrative review, basically. That's the first step. And if you get approved, your building plans are approved, you proceed to planning. If you get denied, then you can go to the planning commission and apply for waiver. So there are two steps to this process.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, if somebody, say it's a restaurant and they're allowed to be there, this guy buys the place and he only like rehabbing the inside, he's not touching the building, like, he's not adding to the building or anything, and there's not enough setback. Does he have to comply with the new setback and demo part of the building?
That's a tough one.
Go through administrative.
Administrative review, I probably won't make him do that, no. The administrative review will not make him demo part of the building to comply. But if you are, making an addition or you're building new, then yes.
Yeah, I understand
yeah.
that one.
They,
But,
they will be grandfathered.
Yeah, we're not gonna demo, well, similarly, I received many calls about the used car lots. Why are they in there? Because you have existing used car lots, and they're grandfathered in, right? They do exist, and you're not gonna go and ban them and tell them to all leave at one time. But they are under that same requirement. So if an existing used car lot wanted to renovate or change hand or, whatever, we'll make them improve the appearance, put the lighting, put this, the landscaping, the parking needs to be a certain way. That's the idea. It's not going to tell everybody you can't live.
Any change in
Ali.
building footprint would put
If
the
any
owner
business-
subject to the ordinance.
If any existing business, let's say, which not complying with the zoning we are proposing, and it's sold, what we do then? Do we let them do the same thing, or they have to change to comply with the new zone?
Okay, selling a business, so let's say a business is not compliant, let's say a used car, since we have so many of them. But if the used car lot is an existing and licensed, I believe they sell the business to a new entity, that new entity will continue operating the same business. You can't
So
just
there
tell them you
wouldn't be
can
any
close it.
problem to continue with the same
No,
kind of
but if
business?
if they come back and pull a city permit, a construction permit for renovations, you wanted to renovate or do whatever, then you're gonna tell them, in that area, I have these standards to follow.
Okay.
Ask you a quick question, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, I just want to confirm, I'm gonna pull a permit to renovate the bathroom. I have to now follow the requirements of everything?
No, if you're doing bathroom renovation, if the number 3 is the maintenance, that is not a building construction, you're doing electrical.
You're ripping out the
upgrade,
walls and you're doing everything else, that's a different story.
Building, plumbing, electrical, any of these things, in my mind, are considered normal maintenance. Now, if you're doing building additions, you're removing or adding another building, then it would be considered applicable.
And then-
Yes.
so basically we're treating this as if it's a historic district and everybody from now on need to confirm in a way. Like there's code, construction code, and people have to.
Yeah, historic I wouldn't use because it's got a whole bunch of other, they're making us do historic.
He's trying to make us seem like
historic
Dearborn.
No, I know. We just did a historic, to answer your question from last meeting, about the crosswalk on Beach Daily. Historic structure review on the light, on the traffic light. But we had to do that, just so you know how government works. But in this instance, no, what it is, it's an additional requirements for that corridor because it is between the two cities, so things are not different, so it's uniform.
So it doesn't matter what particular look is in place. We don't have that problem, for example, on Ford Road or on Telegraph, because it's the same city on both sides of the street. So therefore, it's not a problem.
Same
Whether
thing.
it's a good look or a bad look, it's uniform at the very minimal. In this particular case, it's not uniform. That's the main problem. So if you drive through Van Born, which I know you have, you'll see completely different looks on one side of the street, not to mention zoning, what businesses are allowed to be open, on the Taylor side versus the Dearborn Heights side. And that just, it creates like a jacket and a pair of pants that just don't match well together. And that's, all they're trying to do is just to get them to match better.
I like that terminology. I just have to give credit to
I'm
two
a sales.
councilmen because I know Councilman Wenzel and Councilwoman Breyer were involved in this for many years. So we don't take credit. We're just trying to get it all to a final conclusion. So the back and forth between the communities have already taken place for years, and every element was looked at, like the number of parking spaces for, let's say, a restaurant, fast food, the outdoor seating requirements, the landscaping, the trees, the lighting level. Every element of this has already been reviewed by both cities and modified and remodified and remodified to a point where now it's uniform. So before I brought it to you, I wanted to go over it one more time to make sure that what Council Chair had just said is true. So I don't have a bright lighting on this side of the street and then dingy dark and, on that side, or landscaping with a parking, islands in the parking lot. And then over here, it looks like a third world, arrangement. That's,
Ali,
Council Chair?
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
The changing ownership situation, I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, theoretically, you could have a business that's with a cinder block building with no landscaping, and they can continue to sell that building for the next 100 years, and it continue, they never have to make any changes.
I agree to some degree. there
No,
needs-
but they would, because they'll apply for a new certificate of occupancy.
They have to apply for a new, so when the business is sold, they have to apply for a new, and another CFO, right?
So they have to
certificate
comply
of
then.
occupancy,
Once it's
yeah.
sold, I was under the impression that, it was just asked, I was under the impression they didn't have to comply.
No, they do.
Only if they were
They-
doing improvements.
They have to pull a certificate of occupancy, right?
Okay.
When you sell, so that's when the requirements kick in.
Okay, good,
That's right.
good to hear. Now, a couple more things. Have we contacted Allen Park at all in this?
I don't believe so.
No?
But they don't abut.
Yeah, they do.
To our
There's
Van Born.
like 4 blocks on the end between Pelham and Southfield. Across the street's Allen Park, actually, it's not Taylor.
No, I have to, I don't believe it.
I think through the whole entire course of this, it's primarily been working directly with the city of Taylor and.
Have we mentioned it to Allen Park at all? Do they know we're doing this, you know?
So I'm not aware if we have had, not having all the history with the 6 years that this has been in the works. I'm not sure if early on we were working with Ann Park in any, or Allen Park in any meaningful way.
But the councilman's bringing up a good point. It may be a good idea at the very minimal to send them this
Share.
and say, look, this is what we're gonna be doing, if you wanna maybe
No,
join.
I know
jump
the
on.
mayor, she's really, I know the mayor well. I will be happy to share that
Okay,
with her.
yeah, I'd like that. And one other question now, what happens if there's a block where there's 5 buildings and they all have, in the front, 0 setback? And some guy wants to come in and can he use the argument that all the buildings have 0 setback and he doesn't have to comply? Because it's like, we do that
No.
now in some of our
This
ordinances.
is the line in the sand. When you say this wasn't there before, this requirement that started once you adopt it. So I have permits that are waiting for review, but I wasn't able to incorporate these standards because they're not really on the book, right? Once they're on the books, then we advertise them, we put them on Muni codes, we'll put them on the website. So the designer, before the designer comes to us for a new construction plan. If you recall, there was one for, that wanted to put a apartment building on Van Born. Remember that? And he was asking about this because he heard Taylor adopted it, and where's your requirement? I couldn't share it with him because it's not really official, but I did tell him that this is in addition to our existing. So C3 does not allow you to put residential, apartment building or any kind of residential, construction. So this will not, I'm not gonna argue about the finishes and the lighting, because you're not supposed to have that in there in the
Right,
first place.
gotcha.
Again, this is, and not in lieu, this is going, and I checked our books, and it has a perfect spot in it. So this, once adopted, this fits into that book, and it becomes part of it. I mean, it's designed that way. I didn't do it, it's designed that way. It's really, it is comprehensive. It is, if we apply it properly, you know, and it goes through the review process similar to what Taylor does, I think you'll see a big change, a positive change on Van Born. Just wanted to add one more thing, though. If you look, what the hell? The creek, the Ecorse Creek is just to the north of that. And if you, the gateway also takes into account the non-motorized pathway to the creek. So we're looking at the possible use, it's taken into account. So whoever envisioned this says, look, the city ultimately is going to do something with the non-motorized, you know, you've got that creek, which got just north of the C3 district. So we wanted to capitalize on that and say that if these businesses know that you have, you know, park-like activities or whatever you do there, they can, then they can enhance the business propositions in that location to capitalize on the use of that property in the back. So that was taken into account. I don't know if we'll have enough money to do it, but if we do, through grants or through whatever, if you do that in the non-motorized pathway where you start doing, you know, recreational activities, then the businesses just south of that area are going to benefit quite a bit. It's a big attraction.
Okay. Councilman?
Yes, sir.
Do we have anything included here for the old incinerator property?
No,
Nothing. Now,
I never saw anything there.
let's say,
What was your question?
If this includes the incinerator area at Inkster and Van Born,
yeah.
Yeah, I know where it
If
is.
somebody, Dearborn Heights or Taylor, decided to rezone portion of the street on their own, which does not comply with our agreement.
Actually, I like that.
What is our protection?
So
Tell
I like that
Taylor's
question. That's pretty good, because I asked the same question. So we currently have C3 uniform, 99% of that location is C3. What if we go through the master plan, and we're trying to go out with a master plan now, and the master plan calls through public engagement or whatever to change part of that area from a C3 to whatever. If you look in the zoning part of this overlay, it actually doesn't matter, because that is in addition to what you currently have. So you can make it residential, and this still will apply, because there are residential rules there. So ideally, I can go in today, if I have a piece of property on Van Born, and I don't, I just don't want rumors to start. I don't have one, but if I do, and I wanted to spot zone it, I will apply to the zoning commission and say, I like to go from C3 to whatever, CX, like the gentleman wanted to do. And that still will apply. So even if I get granted a zoning, spot zoning, the overlay still applies.
Council Chair?
yes.
Mr. D, do we have a process in mind that we're gonna implement to just notify potential investors who's gonna buy, that they're gonna be facing these improvements? I mean, a lot of people, sadly, I mean, especially when you buy commercial, you don't do the inspection until after you buy. So a lot of people don't even know, like we had the gentleman last time, he bought a business that it was expired.
Yeah.
So
I know.
he couldn't renew or whatever, he's having some issues. Is there a plan in mind that we can implement to make sure before you buy, this is where you're gonna be looking to, you're gonna rehab the property? Because a lot of people probably, if he's thinking to go rehab the property for 100,000, now probably you're thinking 200,000.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have some issues.
What I'm encouraging, well, to answer your question, I'm not aware of any existing process that will encourage that. But what normally, I tell people, please don't try to bring me drawings that you had submitted. That gentleman you're talking about is an engineer, but, you know, he's not aware of all our, go to a licensed professional, architect, engineer, because the first thing they do is they go on Muni codes and find out what codes, what requirements apply to that area. So if you do that, then you would save yourself a lot of headaches, because they will tell you exactly what you cannot do. Don't put residential there, don't put, you know, and what the setback requirements and the standard. And again, if this gets adopted, the first thing we're gonna do is clean that copy and put it on in our books, and then advertise it with the state and the Muni codes. So any professional person, architect, engineers, will go down there and say, I have a client in that area, that's what I need to follow.
I hope we can maybe have it on the website too as well, so people can see it.
Okay. I think our building department has a link on our website to the munis. I believe they do, yeah.
Council Chair?
Yes, Councilman.
Mr. Deeb,
Yes, sir.
we talked last week, and I told you that I seen them putting some new telephone poles or Edison poles in, and they're like 3 feet away from the street.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why don't we make them, you know, go way back, so if we have to widen it somehow?
Yeah.
What was the way, is there a way to enforce that?
So unfortunately, and this is not unique to this area, this is throughout the city. Excuse me, DTE doesn't pull permits, right? They are under the Public Service Commission, PSC, right? They feel that they're, well, I know you know. So PSC, basically, they are public utility, they're exempt. So things like pole replacement, they recently did ones, and I had to move it, on Ford Road, just east of Telegraph, where they actually put the pole in the sidewalk. Because what they did, they have not one, multiple, and they put the lighting pole right in the sidewalk, which then killed my ADA compliant. So I was like, okay, oh yeah, they put it right in the sidewalk. I took pictures of them, called them, I said, you're removing it. So they did. They removed it at their own expense, brought it. The way they do it is, they have a setback from the back curb. So they don't want vehicles to hit the curb and hit the light pole, right? So they go in setback. They don't pay attention to what's out there. So when you came in and I have a sidewalk that happened to be close to the street, they just placed it in the sidewalk. Now, we'll have to work with them. We do have a good contact with DTE now, so we get a lot, but I know it's on my list, things to do.
You know, also the street lights, you know, Taylor just went through they put brand new street lights in like a year ago.
Yeah.
And they're close to the curb too. Are we gonna adopt their style on our side? Cause I know the way it's set now, ours are really arcing out over the street, and there's.
So we don't want to make the same issues we did with DTE on the Warren Avenue. We're talking to them, once this gets adopted, and I can't enforce it because it's not on the books. Once it gets adopted, we're gonna talk to them and see a uniform, because we pay through community lighting, you know, we pay per unit, right? So once this is adopted by both cities, then we're gonna go in and select a product, both of us, that will be uniform on both sides. And then each city will pay per unit, because we pay, I think, about $48 or something per unit. Yeah, we haven't selected anything yet.
Are you leaning toward adopting their style?
No,
Because
not really.
You wouldn't because they just put new ones in?
So one thing you have to, by experience, what we did on Warren Avenue years ago turned out to be non-DTE standard, which is why when it gets hit, they can't replace it because it's not a standard unit. I don't know who selected that unit. Going forward, my recommendation is pick a standard unit, so if it gets hit or it breaks, they can replace it.
Is there anything in here about street lighting?
There is, but not to that level of detail. Yeah.
Should be,
Council Chair.
so we worked on
Remember
maybe.
that? I don't recall that, but
Put one on that right away.
what I can tell you though is once gets adopted, then we will contact Taylor and select the style for that one corridor that is the same on both sides, the same setback. And then hopefully, I know all communities have that agreement with DTE. They all pay community, because light poles are not metered. So when you put lights, you pay DTE per unit, that will include everything, which is the easy way to go. Otherwise, I will have to put a meter on each light and read it and all that.
Council Chair, just a quick, I'm sorry, going back to the same question I asked you about if somebody buys without knowing. I don't know if maybe you guys, maybe with the building department, if you can think about maybe an initial inspection before somebody can buy, where they can come and sign in and as letter, like they do with residential inspection. So at least, with that point, you can provide them with all the information that expect you're gonna be doing this and that. So this is, I think, will save you guys a lot of headache.
Have an applicant sign in.
Like before they buy, make it, like force an initial inspection, like somebody, if I own a commercial building, I have to, I'll go apply for initial inspection for the purchaser. The purchaser has to come to the city and sign like an as-is letter, like they do with residential. When they come to sign, you can provide them all the information that you guys gonna be looking at doing this, all this rehab.
So give them a copy of the requirements.
Correct.
If you are in that location.
Correct.
That might be a good idea.
Because everybody expect to go do the rehab after they buy in commercial. And once they gonna come here and they're gonna see they have to do all this stuff, it's gonna be a big mess.
Yeah, a lot of times though, I found out and again, you know more about it because of your business, but what I found out though on my end is that people buy VFW hall, but they intend to use it for something different. So they have other ideas in mind other than what it is today.
Correct.
And I have no way of knowing what they have in mind, right? So they come back and say, I'm gonna do, car finishing, whatever, So it's not what the structure is today, is what they have in mind to use it for. But I like the idea. So if we make copies of handouts for that one area, and then our staff will say for this area, for that district, these are the requirements that you need to comply with. It's not a bad idea. It's actually good.
Okay, Councilman?
Any talk about the repaving? There was some talk about the porous, pavement for Van Born. And the road is crowned and the sewers are not very close. And so at the bottom of the driveways, the asphalt, it all crumbles after a few years. Any talk about any repaving?
So he's talking about the crown standards and the stuff.
Yeah, so that's a different phase of this. So this has to do with the buildings themselves along the corridor. The paving of Van Born is entirely a separate entity, which currently they're paving right now. They've been, last year they had a section from like Inkster to.
Telegraph.
Yeah, well, it was Inkster, Inkster, right
Maybe
now
to,
they're.
like Gully but now they're doing to Telegraph.
To Telegraph, yeah, right now.
But that's what would added the expense. They were talking about it would be $1 million a mile.
Yeah.
That was, the expense was the paving.
Yeah.
So that's the standards, if I may, though, that is, as you know, this is Wayne County, right? So we have 4 primary east-west roadways in the city, right? We have Warren, Ford, Michigan, and Van Born. Those are the east-west primaries. Very few of them are under our jurisdiction. In fact, none of them are. So we have the county on Warren and Van Born, and we have the state MDOT through county maintenance on Michigan and Ford Road, right? So the standard themselves, and they do have some issues with the crowning. I mean, I've seen, well, you remember that one where the water goes right into the residential, because they crown this way to drain, and our streets are crowned that way. So when we meet, we have issues. So we are working with, what is that, Taylor Service Center, TS?
Yeah,
TSC.
MDOT, TSC.
MDOT, to try to get those standards uniform so they're not impacting our city. But that, unfortunately, it's hard because you're dealing with government entity. My standards, we can review and change through consultants almost instantly. But it's harder when you deal with other agencies. County is getting, they're listening to us now. So we will have to look at this before we do any intersection change.
And there's no talk about any roundabouts, as far as you know, that was to slow it down.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Just-
You have the history on this, yeah.
Yes.
And I know Councilwoman Breyer has that history. So it's been back and forth a lot, and then you can see, now here's the lighting intensity, and The lighting was looked at to provide what Councilman Wenzel had said, the uniform appearance, the intensity of the lights on both sides, so it's not dingy and bright and, so this is ultimately, but I haven't talked to the building department yet until we adopt it, because what we can do is, this will be the easiest part to implement. Maybe as existing work is taking place, before they sell and renovate, we can tell them that, going forward, we like 3,000 K LED lights in that uniform, and it will be doable. That's these are some of the options we looked at for the parking. There was a lot of thoughts given to green belts, green islands in the parking, It's a good overlay. It really is. If it's going to take a while to get adopted, once adopted, to be fully implemented, but we need to start somewhere. I believe Taylor already implementing, so anyone doing any work on the south side of Van Born will have to comply.
Yes, so the reality is, I think, 15 years from now, if you adopt this year, 15 years from now, you'll really see a difference along that
Yeah,
corridor.
'cause it's gonna be gradual.
Yes.
Able to see.
I hope it turns out amazing, but what I'd like to see is, Dearborn Heights develop just as quick as Taylor. Because what I would hate to see is Taylor has already developed or has already, approved this, resolution, and then we're so delayed, and then people are moving quick, and then we're just still staying with it, or people don't invest in Dearborn Heights and they're ready to invest in Taylor.
I truly thought we could combine the first, second reading so we can vote next Tuesday, but that's just my recommendation.
What, Taylor already have the second reading voted on?
No, they already implemented.
I thought we did the first reading. This will be the second
They're
reading.
done.
On Tuesday, you should have the
We did
second
first
reading.
We'll have a second reading.
But I just want to address one thing to you, Roger, to our corporation counsel, and then in the writing and the reading, if you can, because I know that we have a moratorium stating that we're not allowed to have car dealerships. And so I know that this states over here, automotive, whatever, I just want the reading to state, because from what I'm hearing is, Taylor doesn't have that. So in Taylor, you could open up some type of car dealership. So if we're addressing them both equally, well, then we're throwing away, and I know you're nodding your head, Mariana, but that's, what I'd like in the writing to state is that you can't, in Dearborn Heights at least, you're not gonna be able to have any automotive. That's all.
We've got about, 12 used car dealerships on Van Born now. Now, your moratorium is around the whole city, because we're trying to deal with someone that bought a property and they didn't have the certificates, and we're trying to figure that out. I'm meeting with their lawyers on, I think, Friday or Thursday. But I think what we have to do is, the moratorium ends end of December. So you're gonna have this coming up again, whether you want to continue a moratorium over the whole city,
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there when you put it in.
But if we adopt this on Tuesday, I just want to make something clear. If we adopt this on Tuesday, from Tuesday to December, we're going to be out of compliance. And if somebody wants to open it up, guess what? This over trumps our agreement.
No, can I say, this is in addition to what you have today. It's not in lieu of what you have today.
I understand that.
So if you have a moratorium on used car, that still applies.
It stays in
This is in
effect.
addition to.
It doesn't change it.
It doesn't change it.
So then if it doesn't make a difference, can you just add a little bit of writing to that?
This one's not changing the zoning like that. It's
not.
changing how your place will look like. It has nothing to do with what type of business you're allowed to open.
Right.
So this doesn't address whether it's a restaurant or a used car lot, whatever. I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying, this particular one doesn't address it specifically like that.
It's, plus if I want to make changes, I'm going to go back to Taylor to adopt it to be uniform. And
Well, no, I mean, if Taylor wants to allow for their,
I'm just
You
saying.
could do a couple of different things. If you, I hear what you're saying. You want to make sure it doesn't in any way affect the moratorium. We could put the language when we adopt it. You can verbally say it doesn't, but
Okay.
to go back to the planning commissions and back to the Taylor, You could put it
No,
on
I'm
the
not asking you to
record,
go
but you
back
could
and
keep.
forth with them. I'm not asking for that.
But-
What I'm
but make
asking
a
for is,
record.
I want to
Make
make
a
sure that we're protecting what council and the administration
You
approved on
wanted to
2, 3
reiterate
years
the
ago.
fact that this does not change the existing moratorium on used car in that location.
Exactly, because,
Okay, fine.
you know,
And
this
that'll
is,
be recorded
Van
by the
Born is what
clerk.
it is today because we didn't have that in place.
I don't have an issue. I just wanted to get this thing adopted so we can start implementing. Again, we're gonna be on the receiving end. Anyone who applies, whether for the administrative review or the planning commission, we're going to be involved. The city is going to be involved. I'm gonna see those applications.
I know, Mr. D, but I want you to also keep in mind,
Yeah,
you and I are here today. When my son's around, we don't know who's gonna be around and who's gonna be, who's gonna be approving that, because if this
I'm probably
over pushes
gonna
it,
die
I don't
a
want
lot.
that argument there, that's all.
I agree. I'm not saying that's gonna be us.
I know
It's
under
just
your
the
leadership, it's not gonna happen. I understand, I know that you're gonna protect it and you're gonna hold it in place, but
We got another 28 years of you being here minimum.
city. Oh, you keep it up.
Council Chair?
Yes, Councilman.
I believe in Taylor, to open up a used car lot, you have to be affiliated with a car dealership. I think, or a nonprofit or something like that. You can't just open up a used car like we can in Dearborn Heights. They have different specifications for it. How far is it from Inkster to Southfield?
It's like 5 miles.
5 miles?
Yeah, a little less than that,
A little less than 5 miles,
yeah.
okay. And, Taylor does a lot of stuff in their city because most of their city is in the Tifa zone. They get a lot of Tifa money, and I think it's up and down the whole, isn't it all the way?
The east side.
Yeah, so,
The
but,
west side, the west side.
yeah. And, like you mentioned it, you might answer the question, but to change things, how hard do you think it would be to, next year tweak this a little bit?
So what I was hoping we can do is if we adopt it, then we're gonna go through the master plan. In the master plan, everything is on the table, everything, and citywide. So you all get a chance to review public input and then land use, which is the huge part of the master plan, right? Land use and the designation of corridors and what standards you want to follow. In fact, you may decide that you don't want C3 in that location as part of the master plan. You may decide you wanted to go after commercial or,
use.
Anything, you may decide that will be the ideal. We tried C3 for 25 years, we didn't attract everything will be on the table. Now, that will be the time to say, to come back and say, look, we need to amend it because now we adopted a master plan and the land use policy that changed it. So I'll give you an example. You currently have Warren as your downtown district. That is not the city of Dearborn Heights downtown district, but that's what it is on the book. This is the kind of stuff the land use will come out of the master plan. It's part of it. And, a lot of things may change.
Is this just a good faith agreement between Taylor and Dearborn Heights?
You negotiated it, Councilman.
I know,
You
could they say
negotiated it.
tomorrow, screw yeah, we're changing it all? Can they do that?
yeah,
Is it?
most definitely. I mean, there's
It'll have to
nothing that's legally binding us to them.
Yeah, there's not an intercity agreement on this. So of course, they could go through the process and change things. I think that, that would throw out 6 years of working together.
You mentioned intercity agreement, I never heard that. Is that something that is typical or not very typical?
Yeah, in my
Is it-
experience,
is it
for
legal?
something like this, it wouldn't be typical.
No. No.
Council Chair?
So if,
Mr. Wenzel's done.
Councilman, if that makes you feel better, maybe similar to what Councilman Baidoon said, we can reiterate before we adopt it. Any changes must be, negotiated between the two communities, because if they decided to, have a high-rise building on one side and I'm limited to 1 or 2 story, you know what I mean? That kind
Yeah,
of,
well, it still have to comply with the looks of the building. If it's
But
a
it
high
won't
rise,
look- yeah.
yeah, I know, but still, like you said before, it doesn't matter what the building is.
Right,
It just
right.
gotta comply with appearance.
yes,
you know,
so aesthetics,
yeah.
facade, side and rear setbacks, that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. Sure. We can make it
All set? Okay. Any other questions, council members? All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good work. I know it's been 6, 7 years. The city's been working on this. This is gonna look good. Looking forward
Yes,
to it.
sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Council Chair, one thing, you know, in the words of our beloved Council Chair, let's see something happen, right? I mean, he's along with me. We've been looking at this for long, and I know you guys doing everything you can, you know, on, you know, from both sides of the city you're working with, you know, and I don't know why it takes so long, but it is a good thing. I can't wait for this to start happening. It's gonna be really, I mean, I can't wait for the first, you know, thing to go on that has to comply with this, you know.
First compliant use, and then keep in mind that we're going through a lot of grant applications for the environmental work of the creek itself and the area between the creek and C3. I truly believe, and I'm not a businessman, these real estate probably do a lot better than me, but if we provide that kind of activities, I think that will be a catalyst for a lot of businesses to support that. You know, if you start making an attraction of it, you know, we had a lot of stuff, but people currently don't have, there's no walking area and by the creek, there's no, I mean, you know the conditions. But if we do the catalyst and we get that started, I truly believe that businesses will follow.
Is there like any kind of benefit if we do something like, require like those natural those grass parking lots that have like the block and grass growing between them and the water goes right through it? Would that be beneficial for grants to have something like that?
So the green infrastructure,
infrastructure.
the green infrastructure, yeah. So we're looking at those because, yeah, it doesn't have to be the blocks and the grass. There are other, in addition to permeable pavements, there are additional green infrastructures that we're looking at that will be a lot less expensive for us. So, you know, we have stormwater capacity issues, right? So what do? Either you tear up the whole city and upsize your pipes, or you do things like other cities, only two cities that I know of, Ann Arbor and Royal Oak, have done the green finger basins where they actually get the water back into the ground, so they've got two pipes on the bottom. And that, to me, is a lot less expensive than trying to upsize the pipes throughout the city.
I think we should look into that because, I mean, that's like, we waited this long, let's go into the future a little bit. You know, do what things, like you say, Ann Arbor and Royal Oak are doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just not be behind anybody anymore. Let's get in front of everybody on this project.
I agree. No amen to that.
That might add some extra costs. In the shopping center in the north end, where the Kroger's is, they have retention ponds.
Yeah.
All that doesn't, and they have the berm to separate the,
So
complex from
if you look at Taylor, Walmart has a great retention pond just south of Ecorse, and they look at that retention. I went and looked at it. It is an award winner because of the size and the way it was designed. And I went and looked at it, but they do have the land. I mean, you have to keep in mind, you know, you need the land. And I'm looking at possible locations in the city that we can do something like this. But, you know, and we just had the meeting today with the Corp Council, some of the stormwater management requirements are imposed on us by agencies. Today was the Eagle, and yesterday it was Wayne County. So there are requirements that you're not free to do things way you want, we used to do before. So they do have requirements that we have to comply with, but there are potentials.
I like that Walmart, they got the 2 levels. That's got to overflow and go into that one for a reason, it's designed like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's that? Oh.
He's got the.
I just have 5 more things I'd like to bring up.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Have a good night, good work.
Thank
move
you.
to adjourn.